Hi there, and welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Rusty, and this is me channel where I talk about me favorite movies, mostly horror, and me favorite music, mostly metal. And we are continuing our Robert the Doll franchise with the third installment, which is called Robert and the Toymaker. Um, this was released in 2017. It stars, well, written and directed by Andrew Jones, who stars Lee Bane, Erick Hayden, and Joe Will, amongst others. And this turns out to be a prequel where we get to go back and see how Robert the Doll came into being. Robert and the Toymaker. Remember from the last movie, we ended with the detective selling Robert to back to the toy maker who put him on the shelf and was like, "Welcome home," blah blah blah. So this movie opens in Nazi Germany in 1941, and it opens up in the woods, and there's this man running from the Gestapo, and he ends up at a farm where he bangs on the door, and this man opens the door, they let him in, and they allow him to hide. The man's name is Christoph, cute as pie, and his wife Bridget, and they also have a teenage daughter named Esther. So they allow him to hide in this farm, in this farmhouse, or in their home, and then the Gestapo does come to the door, comes in, we get to meet our main two SS people, and they are throughout the movie. They're the two main ones. So we get to meet them, and they search the house, and they're very terrified. The couple is terrified, and the director did really good. The scenes were very very tense during this. Um, he did a really good job. I was really, really into, like I had said before, I really had gotten invested into this franchise and I really liked it. So I was glued for this whole intro, um, which I guess probably was like 20 minutes, 20, 25 minutes. The acting was superb, really superb. I don't know where he gets his actors, if he's like an indie low budget, but he manages to find some good actors. Christoph was great. Bridget was great. Esther was great. All of them were great. So they're hiding this guy, and the scenes with the Gestapo was done so well because they were terrified, and you can tell that they were terrified. And they don't find anything. Now you saw him go into this specific closet, and they almost left and then saw that closet and they went and looked at it, and this made them, there's that shadow on my face from the microphone. I'm gonna have to find out what light's that coming from, but they open it up and they don't see him, and you're like, oh thank goodness. So we get to I wondered, like, that thing is full of junk. Where did the dude go? Right? So they leave, and Christoph goes in there, and he's like hidden amongst some stuff. Hid very well. So he comes out, and we find out, who he is. His name is Benjamin Hoffman. He was a historian for the Gestapo, for the Reich, and he had discovered a book because Christoph asked him, "What's that book that you're holding so close? You haven't let it out of your hands since you got here." And that's when he told him that he didn't want to know what was in the book. He didn't want to know about the book so that he wouldn't have to lie, because the Gestapo would be back. They wanted it. So he said that he was a historian for the Reich, and that he had discovered some dark plans that the Big H had for the people. So the guy agreed to let him stay there for a few days till the search died down, and that he would move on. So he agreed that he would move on after that. Well, 2 days later, you see the Gestapo coming down the road again, but this time it was those two, but there was a third one, a higher ranking one. And the scenes this time were even more tension filled, and he had ran up into the attic. They put him up into the attic this time, and he had dropped the book, and the Gestapo were almost at the door, and so he just hollered to the girl to hide it, and he went on up into the attic. Well, this guy, this higher ranking guy, he was like, you could tell he was like evil as shit, right? And the scenes where he was trying to intimidate them, trying to, do all of these psychological mind games. He was an expert, like a human lie detector, and but man, Christoph and Bridget, they were like holding fast, and they ended up going up into the girls' room, to Esther's room. Now the book is sitting right over there. She just stuffed it in between two stacks of clothes, and you can see it, but he tries his intimidation tactics on her as well, and you almost think that they won, because you're like, I was sitting there like going, oh no, because he was like, has there been any guests here, and over the last few days, and she was like, yes, and you saw this look on Christoph's face and Bridget and mine, because I was like, oh no, what? And then she said, my friend Ellen came over like last week. So you're like, oh. Now, what we're now seeing is he's panicking up there in the attic. And he's gotten down on his hands and knees, right? So he's gotten down on his hands and knees, and he's like listening really close at the door, to the floor, listening to what they're saying down there. And that's when you're like, okay. So he's getting very scared. Now his foot is hitting this table, and on this table is one of those snow globes, you know? It's a really nice crystal snow globe with the little town in it, in the water with the snow stuff. So while he's listening at the table, at the floor, his foot has hit that table, and that snow globe has come right to the end of the thing. I tell you, I was really like, that, I'm like, dude, don't drop that. I was like, dude, don't drop that, man. Look what's going on. And sure enough, the Gestapo men, they were just about to leave, while at the same time kind of still accusing Christoph of lying. And he then like just kind of gave up and said, no, 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 you are lying. And he pulled out a gun, and I was like, oh no. And he was like, you should know when to fold, because he had been rattling on about poker and a bluff and stuff like that. So right about that time that he pulls out the gun, that fucking snow globe falls, and I was just like, ah, damn. And the dude like turns around real quick, and he's like reaching for it, and he manages to catch it right before it hits the floor. However, him moving that quickly, and it's a quite, they were right there, right? Her room is right below the attic, so they heard him moving. So even though he caught that globe, it didn't mean jack, because they heard him move. And so when he did that, the commandant just turned right, just looked up there and just shot through the ceiling, and just like put tree right through his chest. So you were like, oh crap, man, I didn't see that coming. Then he turned around to them, to Christoph and Bridget, and was like, see, I knew you were lying. And then he just like blew their brains out. I didn't see that coming either. It was like, bam, blew his brains out. And the director is really learning because none of this was off screen. That shit, when they shot that guy up there, that was realistic. And when he blew their brains out, when he blew Christoph and Bridget's brains out, that too was realistic. And so I was like, that was good work. And the commandant and the SS, they run up there to the attic to see, like, you know what was up there, and they see him laying there dead on the floor. So they go running back down because they don't see the book anywhere. They go running back down, and the guy runs to the window. Well, Esther is gone. She's not sitting there. So they had just killed her right in front of her parent. I mean, killed her parents right in front of her. So she's like running across towards the woods, and he takes a shot at her because he's like up there on the second floor. So there's no way he can get down and out. So he takes a shot at her across the field, but she doesn't fall or anything. So I assumed that she had made it. Um, so you see him sigh heavily and kind of like, the fuck, you know, and the next thing you see is that the guy, the toy maker, this old man, and his door is being banged on. He opens it up, and when he opens it up, it's Esther, and she's like, help me," because his light was like one of the only lights that were on. So he didn't know her, and she didn't know him, but he's like, "Oh my God, child, what happened to you?" and stuff like that, and he lets her in, and she falls on the floor, and when she moves the book, he's like, "Oh, I'll get some help," and she says, "No, don't bother, it's too late," and she moves the book, and there's this big bullet hole. I mean, she had been hit when that guy shot her, so that sucked. And she handed him the book and told him that the Nazis were coming, and not to let them have it. So she died right there, and you're like, well, damn. So the toy maker now, he's got this book, and he puts it up, and he hears the SS outside, and they're like walking through the street, saying that there was this girl they were looking for, and people better tell them, where they are. So he hides the book, and later on that night, he buries the body. He buries the girl. It's not like he could do anything else, right? Because if he had let anybody know, they would have certainly took him. So he buried the body. I'm not even looking at the notes, so let me catch up. Okay. So then you find out the next day, he goes into his toy store. He runs a toy store that sells dolls and toys like doll houses and full-size dolls and, a doll maker. So he, you see him and you meet his only employee, which is Abigail. And he's like this joyous little man, and he's talking about, how happy everything is. And she begins to tell him that, how come he hasn't left because of the war, obviously, that's going on. And because it is 1941 after all. So, and he's like, because, this is my family's business, and this is my family's home, and I'm not going to leave it. And she's like, yeah, but the business is failing. You can barely afford to pay me. As a matter of fact, I'm probably not going to be able to work here for very much longer because, we're not making any money, and you can't even afford to pay me. So he's got this problem that, his building is failing. So that night, he is sitting in his workshop, and he opens up the drawer and he pulls out that mysterious book that this girl had died for. And he's like reading it, and he can tell that it's like these black magic spells, and stuff like that. And he is reading them and playing around with them, spells to bring back the dead, spells to bring imbue life into inanimate objects and stuff like that. And here's where we get Robert, because Robert was one of the dolls that he had made. So and it just happened to be the first one that he grabbed. So he grabbed Robert and he put him on the table. And he did this spell over him from the book. And he started laughing, to himself. It's like, what the hell am I doing? It's like, this is stupid. I can't believe that I just did that. And so he didn't believe this crap. I guess when he read it, I guess he wanted to see if it was real. I mean, the Third Reich is after it, right? So he didn't really believe it. And then Robert sat up and was alive. And he gets kind of hysterical, like, oh my God, this is real. And wow, and I guess he's in his old addled mind. He started, I guess, trying to think that everything would be okay now. Maybe he could make, I don't know what the dude was thinking. I mean, what are you going to do? You're just going to bring all your dolls to life and what? Put it in the paper? Hey, come get a real living doll in 1941. So I don't know what made him so happy, but it made him happy. And the next day, Abigail noticed how happy he was, his employee. Noticed how happy he was and was like, you're awful chipper today and stuff like that. And he ends up telling her. Now, meanwhile, you have flashed back to the SS bunker, where they are very upset about having not found this doll. I mean, not found this book and Esther. So they start, kind of saying, what can we do? We've looked, we've threatened, we've done everything, and we can't find Esther or this book. And that's when the colonel, who's the evilest of them all, he ends up saying, oh, well, I've got an idea. These people are all very poor, yeah? So 20,000 Deutschmarks, okay? Now, in 1941, yeah. So he's like, you go offer 20,000 Deutsch to anyone who can tell us where this girl is or where this book is. So that's their plan. Now, back at the Toymaker, he has decided for some fucked up reason, he thought Abigail was his family. It's the only family he had. So he told Abigail about it. Now, of course, you can imagine what she did. Crazy old man. So she's like, yeah, okay. So, and of course, he like grabbed Robert and he's like, talk to her, yeah? Talk to her. Because he was like running around and talking to me all night, and she's like, yeah, okay. Sure he was. So, he goes on about his business. She ain't gonna believe him, and they stick Robert over there, and Robert gets down while Amos is on the other side of the store. Robert gets down and he kind of stalks Abigail, and then he grabs a big pencil and he attacks her. He attacks Abigail. So he's like on top of her. He's trying to stab her. And Amos comes running over and starts chastising him. It's like, stop that. Get off of her, naughty boy. So sort of like, Geppetto get on to Pinocchio or something. He's like screaming at him, to stop that. And he's like, starts then explaining to Robert. He's like, this is my family. This is my friend. And she's our friend. And why would you try to hurt her? And Robert, well, he doesn't have no facial expressions because he's a doll. But he kind of chastises him for having attacked Abigail. Abigail, as you can imagine, has just like dropped her basket, yeah, because she is just like, what the fuck? So they end up like in his workshop, and he's like, she's like, what are you doing this for? This is dangerous. This is like evil black magic stuff. Why are you doing this? What do you expect to get out of this? And stuff like that. And she's like, I'm out of here. You understand? Why did he try to attack me? Now here's where we get some really cool additions to the mythology of this franchise. He says, because she's like, why would he try to attack me? And the guy is like, Amos is like, that's what I don't understand is that, you know, why is he mean, basically? Why is he mean? And why is he evil? And so she's like, he starts going, maybe it's from what he is, what he's made of, the parts. And she was like, but I don't understand. You made them by hand right here. He's like, no, there's 3 of my dolls. There's this little cute little clown doll, and there's this little, well, she looks like, it's a doll that looks like the little girl in Interview with the Vampire, Claudia. So this little doll looks like Claudia. And he said, Robert and that doll and this other doll, they were made from parts that I had gotten from elsewhere, but instead of like all the others that were made from my own material here. And that's when he said the parts that he made Robert out of was Russell Crowe. That this kid had been murdered by his father, and that he had a doll with him, and that he got a hold of that doll, and that he brought it back to his work, and this was like on his travels, that he had brought that doll back, and that he had redesigned the face, which explains why in the movie our Robert the doll doesn't look like the real one in Key West right now in real life. But anyway, that was the explanation. He redesigned the face, and he, recreated this doll from the doll that was found with the dead boy that was murdered by his father. So you're like, oh, okay. So this was all coincidence. This was all circumstance that he just happened to grab Robert and did this spell on Robert. And Abigail was like, well, I'm the fuck out of here. I can't deal with this kind of nonsense. So she left. And what do you think the bitch did? I'll give you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do you think she did? She goes straight to the fucking Nazis, right? For that $20,000 reward. So she goes straight to them and is like, it's kind of switches back to her, and she's there telling them the story of where it is. That Amos had told her that this girl Esther had stopped by. She had died. She had a book with her. She had given it to him. And that he had it, and they were like, yeah, well, why should we believe you? And, how do you know that this is real? And then that's when she told them, because he actually used it on a doll, and the doll attacked her. So they're like, okay, well, where would it be? And so she tells them about the store, and she tells them about the workshop and Amos. And so they're like, okay, fine. So they're going to go get Amos. But of course, she's like, where's me money? Where's me payment for betraying this guy who loved me like a father? And this is when you find out how evil the Colonel is, because he comes down there and starts talking about how rats and humans are very similar and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, he's going to do something ugly up, I think. And he ends up like gutting her, stabbing her, and killing her. as a reward for betraying someone that she loved or that loved her. So he literally said, like a rat, they will betray each other. And so he killed her, which she kind of deserved, right? I mean, she was going to turn this guy over to the Gestapo for 20 grand. So, you didn't feel real bad for her, but anyway. So you go back now to the workshop where Amos, of course, is very upset that Abigail has left. And he's like, she was my family. She was the only family that I had, even though they weren't really like blood family. And so he's like, oh wait, I got an idea. I'll just I'll just do the spell on a couple more and we'll make our own family. So he told Robert that, they would just make their own family now. So he got that little Claudia looking doll, Isabel is her name, and he did the spell on it and she came alive. And then the little clown doll, and he came alive. And so now there were three of them. There was Robert and Isabel. I think his name was Porthos? Not Porthos. That was not Porthos. Porthos is Archer's dog in Enterprise. Porthos. So, um, so you have Isabel, Robert, and Porthos. And Porthos and Isabel actually are cute dolls, whereas Robert is just scary looking. But anyway, so that next day, um, he hears a noise that night, or right after he had done that actually. He hears some noise downstairs, and he told them, to chill out while he went down there and looked at it, see what that was up. And he goes down there, and boom, SS pumps him in the face. And so he's gone. He's taken off to he's in the boot of the car, and he's going off to the SS camp, bunker. So one of them that we've seen from the very beginning, one of the two, remember I told you the two SS officers that were there the whole time, he was left behind at the store, and they told him to burn the shit down. So he was going to burn. So he was going to I just had to do that. So he was going to burn it down, and he's throwing gas all around, and he's getting in his pocket. He's going to light it on. He's going to set it up, yeah. And no, you're not, because Robert and Isabel and Portos had heard this conversation between them. And so the other guy left to take Amos back to the bunker, or to the jail, or you know what I'm saying, the place where the SS were investigating this crime, the local Third Reich headquarters. There you go. So he had heard, Robert had heard this, and so they killed the soldier, well deserved, that was going to burn the place down. And then we flash back, we're at the bunker now, where Amos is being interrogated and tortured by the colonel, who is having way too much fun doing that. And we get to see all of this kind of stuff going on. He's wanting to know about the book. He's wanting to know about Esther. He's wanting to know about where this stuff is at. And Amos ain't coming off shit, right? This old man is not coming off shit. So he's being tortured like he's in a scene from Hostel. And with this guy trying to enjoy his work and get this truth out of him. And meanwhile, our little trio of terror here has showed up, and they are slowly bumping off the SS officers in that bunker one by one. So we're getting to see, little kills. And you have to remember that these are dolls, right? So I think there was I thought when I was watching it, I was like, I think I would rather be killed by Jason or Michael or something, because at least they used big knives and it didn't take very long. Whereas these little dolls, I mean, you know, their little hands, they could only hold these little knives that were like that long. So when they're like cutting throats and stabbing you, it's like you're being stabbed to death by little ducks or something, you know. So that was kind of, I thought it's like probably more painful to be stabbed to death by a little bitty knife than it is to just be gutted by a butcher knife or something. I don't know, but um, so they're bumping off the SS officers while this is going on, while Amos is being tortured. And like right before the colonel shoots him, because he's finally through, right? And he gets it out, and he's going to hurt Amos even worse. And Amos finally breaks and tells him that the book is back there, that, you know, Esther came by, and that's where he got the book, and that the book is back at the warehouse over there. And the guy was like, cool, now I can kill you. So he gets out the gun, and he's going to shoot Amos. And like right before he pulls the trigger, um, Robert like runs, or one of the dolls. I don't know if it was the clown or him, but he runs, and he's got his. It was a good kill because, or it was a good stab, because the guy is standing in front of Amos with the gun, and his legs are spread, so he's kind of standing with his legs apart, and I think it was the clown, but he runs right up under him and stabs him right in the nuts. I mean, just stabs him right in the balls, right in the scrotum, right, and pulls it out, and like blood goes everywhere, and you're like, ouch. That was that would get your mind off whatever you were doing at the moment. Now, of course, he shot anyway, but he had fallen back and he had shot. So right before he could shoot Amos, though, they had done that. And then, of course, Isabel and Robert, they jump on him too, all with these little knives, and they're like stabbing him painfully all over. And then after he's like stabbed probably 50 times, Robert puts the gun to his face and shoots him. At which point they turn around and go to Amos, and Amos informs them that it's too late for him, because he had been shot, you know, and that guy had done too much damage already to him. He was an old man, and so he was going to die. But did they take him? I couldn't really tell. I think they took him back. Could Three Little Dolls carry that motherfucker? I don't know. I don't know if they went and got the book, or if they took him back to the, or maybe they had brought the book with them. I can't remember. But anyway, in any event, they got the book out as Amos died. They got the book out, and they did a reanimation spell, which was cute too. The little voices that they used. It was this cute little voice that they used, but they actually spoke a spell over his body, and he came back alive, strong and healthy. It didn't like make him young or anything. He was still himself, but he was strong and healthy, which made you then realize why he looked the way he did in the second movie, because he looked like a lot older and decrepit, like a fucking zombie or something in the second one. And now you see why, because the second one, you know, took place in the modern day, whereas this was 1941. So he was already old in 1941, and in the second movie, he's, you know, got a lot more wrinkles and stuff like that, but he was certainly still spry. And now we know why, because he was actually had a spell from that book thrown on him when he was tortured to death by the Gestapo. And so he comes back and they're all happy and stuff like that. And they're waiting at a train station and he's got his big suitcase and you can hear them inside like bitching and stuff. And he's like, y'all got to be quiet, like we're going to get caught, just quit. And he like opens it up and he looks down. He's like, Robert, quit pulling Isabel's hair. Y'all are going to get us caught. When we get to our destination, everything will be fine and y'all can get out. But until then, chill out. So he locks the thing back, and here comes the train, and they get on it, and they go. And that's where the movie ended. And I was like, this was fucking good. This was actually really good. I mean, the second one was good. It was just way too short. But I really, really liked this one. I really liked this one. That the first 25 minutes, I don't care. I think the guy's doing a great job creating the mythology of this. Um, because, like I said, the first 25 minutes where they were doing, where Christoph and his wife and daughter, how all of this transpired, those scenes were so tense. When the guy was in the attic, the acting was fantastic in those actors, and the rest of it was too. But the guy who played Christoph and his Bridget and Esther, the acting was phenomenal. I can't say enough about it. I really give kudos to this guy about this movie. Um, Being such a low budget movie, to be able to find actors that were really that good. Um, there was nothing cheesy in their performances. There was nothing low budget in their performances. And you know me, I've got over 1,700 DVDs and movies, good to bad, and high budget, low budget, and everything in between. And my expert opinion, and I am an expert, especially in horror and sci-fi, um, the acting was really good, and this movie was, I love the mythology of this series, and yeah, I liked it. I liked it. It's a nice little find. I think this box set cost me like $6, brand new, still in the wrapper on eBay. Seriously. And I had a very, very good time. I had a wonderful time. Let me tell you, that was $6 worth of really good entertainment. Second one was great, even greater. Like I said, I'm keeping reminding you, I don't dislike the first one. My issue with it was content. There was no cussing. There was no real blood. There was no real on-screen kills. There was no. The content was just like really terrible. But the story and everything was really intriguing, and kind of made you sad, because you're like, dude, if you could have just like done what you were supposed to do, this is great. But he fixed that with the second one, and he fixed it in kudos with the third one. So I am really excited to see the next two, which is The Revenge of Robert and Robert Reborn. So I'm kind of interested to see them. I'll probably watch them tomorrow because I'm kind of hyped to see where this is all going to go. Um, and then I'll do, like, maybe tomorrow night I'll film those. But yeah, I really love this franchise so far. It was a surprise, one of those low budget pound store or dollar bin or whatever you want to call it. I think The Revenge of Robert maybe cost me like $4 or $5, and I think I paid like 8, because like Robert Reborn is pretty new, I guess. It's the fifth one. I think I paid like $8 for it or something, but it's okay. I now know that I'm very, very interested, and I hope that they keep going down the road that he's going. So yeah, that was Robert and the Toymaker, the third installment in the Robert the Doll franchise. And if you're interested, you should check it out. It's definitely worth it, especially for the prices you can get this franchise at. As I talked about in the first one, I don't mind clones. I don't mind ripoffs. Just give me a little variation. Give me something different. I always will love red velvet cake. I don't need nothing new added to my red velvet cake. And I don't need nothing new added to a Friday the 13th clone. Pretty people on a lake, cut each other, cut the hell out of them. Give me some cute guys to go fuck when you kill them. Um, give me the burning. Give me April Fool's Day. Give me Happy Birthday to Me. Give me Sleepaway Camp. Give me it all. Just different people, little different setting, little different variation. Give me a slasher. I want a slasher. Keep it a slasher. You ain't got to add anchovies to it. Just give me what I want, And, yeah. So, is it a Chucky ripoff? Well, it's not the same story. It's a different story. It's a variation. It is a Chucky ripoff, but it's a good one. And it's got a cool story, cool mythology. I'm interested to see where it's going to go now. And I will see you when I do them. Yes? Thank you for stopping by. I'm really glad that you like horror or movies. And those who want to watch my music, yes, I will do music. Just let this weather change happen and maybe I'll feel like doing it. But I will see you in the next video. Love you, miss you, bye. And always remember, no matter what this cruel world is doing to you, no matter what they're saying about you, you are the only one of you, a very unique and individual. Stay that way. Don't follow fads. Don't shave your head and grow a dog's ass beard like everybody else. Didn't your mama ever ask you, if your friend jumped off a cliff, would you too? Do you have to? Think about that. And I will see you in the next video. Keep screaming. Keep rocking very, very hard. And keep screaming, like I said, but only when appropriate. You don't want to get put away or scare the neighbors, unless they're assholes. I know a few of those. See you then. Love you, miss you, bye. I just don't want to go.